If you've been collecting watches for any amount of time, you've definitely seen the Timex Marlin series. This is one of Timex's distinct lines that frequently has automatic movements or sometimes cross collaborations with different fandoms. But really the question I've always had when I've seen these is it worth it? Today, to answer that question, I have the help of this black and gold Timex Marlin 40mm, and this video is a full technical review as well as design review of the watch, where ultimately we'll answer the question at the end of the video, is the Marlin series worth it? So without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting off, I do want to clarify that this is actually my brother's watch. He was kind enough to let me borrow it and make a video before he sold it to consolidate his collection. Timex as a brand has actually been around since the 1850s. First established as the Waterbury Clock Company in Waterbury, Connecticut, Timex has always been a staple of the watchmaking world. Timex has always focused on bringing affordable yet still quality watches to the general public. This strategy continues today with their Indiglo series, their Expedition series, and they do sometimes expand their price range upwards, for example, with the Marlin series. So with that in mind, let's dive into the design details of this particular watch. And I'll also be sure to highlight a bunch of the common design features from the Marlin line featured in this particular watch. Of course, first you notice that the beautiful black dial, which has a little bit of a sheen to it, which catches the light nicely depending on how you rotate it, paired with the gold case as well as handset and indices. A very classy, more formal dress watch style. And common to the Marlin line is this case shape. And what's nice is the sides are at a nice angle, so that way it catches the light depending on how you move it. Really sharp lugs as well that pop up off that case. A lot of texture to this case shape to make it an interesting look, even though it's a relatively simple design on the dial. The indices are applied, very thin, elegant look, with a date wheel seen there with a white back, and if we flip it over, there is a automatic movement with an exhibition back. Many of the other automatic Marlin watches also have this exact movement and feature an exhibition back. My only real qualm with this is that, listen here, you can just hear how loud this rotor is. It is nice that the exhibition back shows off some nice jewels and some different finishing on the movement. However, that noise is a little bit of a detractor. And one thing to note is this is not a hacking movement, which means if when you pull the crown, the seconds hand does not stop. This makes it a little harder to set the time correctly, and really would have been a nice feature for this watch to have. The strap is a nice leather, which has this nice buckle at the end with the Timex logo. And the straps are actually made by SB Footing Tanning, which is an American company out of Red Wing, Minnesota, which is the same company they used for their Timex American Documents model. But let's now talk about the technical specs. Pulling up the technical specs, the diameter is 40mm with a thickness being a nice tight 13mm. Tip-to-tip distance is 48mm and the crystal is a domed mineral. Water resistance 30 meters, and the movement is the Miyota 8215 automatic movement. Let's get a couple shots on the wrist. So here we have it on my 7.5 inch wrist. 40mm is a great size for me. I like how thin it is too, and even though I have a 7.5 inch wrist, there's about 2 more positions in the strap to go larger and plenty for a smaller wrist. The 48mm tip-to-tip is a nice size. Dial and the sides catch the light nicely. It is a more dress watch, so it's supposed to be a little more muted, but I find that gold color comes out very nicely, and the dial is just nice and clean, keeping with that classy look. Now let's talk MSRP. So MSRP of this watch, when it was released, it was $249 US. The Marlin series can range from just under $200 for quartz versions all the way up to $350 for unique automatic versions. This puts it on the upper end of an affordable watch, so it begs the question, is it worth it? When I compare it to a similar watch in a similar price category that's, I think, quite popular, the Orient Bambino, you actually see a very similar feature set, similar design, and similar specs for the cost. However, 2 watch brands that I think challenge the feature set for the cost is first off Pagani Design, which is a Chinese brand that offers, for very affordable cost, fully automatic movements, sapphire crystals, and homage style designs that look similar to Rolex, Panerai, and other luxury watch brands. And a second brand that challenges that is actually Islander watches from LongIslandWatch.com. I've been a huge fan of Islander watches for a long time. They frequently come automatic movements, exhibition backs, sapphire crystals, like this one on screen, that right now is retailing for $285 on sale. So while it's not an exact one-to-one for this particular watch, the style of the Timex Islander watches does challenge a lot of brands in the industry for the feature set they offer compared to their price tag. Coming back to the Timex, I do think this sits okay from a cost-feature perspective compared to some of the other things out in the market like the Orient, and ultimately, like it always comes down to, it is the style. So the other watches I showed don't have the same look as this Timex, so if you are in love with this look, I think the feature set offered is reasonable. I think there are some other watches that offer a more competitive feature set. However, the features offered for this watch is okay, and if you like the style, this watch is worth it for you. But let me know down in the comments below, what do you think? Is the Marlin series worth it? What would you rather see for that price point? Or what watches do you know that offer more for the same price? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. That's all for me today. This has been On The Wrist. Thank you for watching.